Good day, boys and girls. Today we are looking at historical sources, where you'll be learning how to think like a historian. Here we have some key historical sources. You'll be learning much more. There's a mural on the first page, diary, monument, and an autobiography. Let's get into it. At the end of today's lesson, we will be looking at key objectives to be completed. You should be able to define historical sources, recall types of historical sources, describe the difference between a primary and a secondary source, understand steps involved in sourcing a document. It's going to be fun. What are historical sources? Historians rebuild or reconstruct the past by using material related to an historical event or an historical issue. The material used by historians to make sense of the past is called historical evidence or historical sources. Let us now examine the types of historical sources. There are primary sources. These sources are raw data. They are taken from a particular point in time of an historical event. Example: government records. Another example: diaries, tombstones, paintings, skeletal remains, artifacts, oral testimony. Another type of source is secondary source. This is information made from the interpretation of primary data. This information is compiled after an historical event. For example, history books, history journals. As a result, historians would interpret these information or information such as these that are classified as primary sources and create a book or write a journal. There are many different types of historical sources, most of which are primary sources. Below, we have several primary sources. Let's take a look at them. This is a newspaper article. In the middle, we have a monument in the form of a pyramid, and to this end, we have a government document. Historians utilize sources similar to these to rebuild the past and write the story of those who were living at the time. As history and social studies students, you will come across documents that you will have to analyze like a historian. They will be in the form of written essays, books, graphs, pie charts containing important information, and there are some clues that you will use in order to determine how valid the document is, what type of document it is, and so on. Let's look at some of the questions the historian would ask that you also would have to ask whenever you're looking at historical documents. Who wrote this? What is the author's perspective? When was this document written? Where was this document written? Why was this document written? Is this document reliable? Can I use it? Why? Why is it considered reliable and why not? Let us now take a brief look at two types of historical documents. This is a newspaper article and this is a government paper. Who wrote this article? Based on what I'm seeing here, it was the New York Times. And the New York Times is considered a credible source. It is a reliable document, and of course, looking at the topics in the article, one can easily source this newspaper article itself. So this would be considered a credible newspaper article. The topic would tell you why it is written. Here is a copy of a government paper. This was a message from the President of the United States. Here we can see when the article was written in January. Here we know exactly where the document is coming from. And also here we know when it was first produced. All these clues indicate to us that the source is a reliable source. We have now come to the end of our lesson for today. Be sure to utilize the sourcing techniques, asking questions just like an historian would when you are looking at documents, whether it be online, from a library, or other sources. That is how you'll be able to differentiate which information is factual and which is not. Thank you.